Welcome to our series on the CatPat Phase 1, and hopefully from watching our previous video you've set up a nice table so that you can start inputting in your 10 questions, which is the bulk of the marks for the Phase 1. But before we get to those 10 questions, I want you to watch this important video just so that you know what to look for those 10 questions, just to get an overview of everything that you need so that you go and find the right information. So let's get into it. In our previous video, we set up this table as an appendix. We had different versions. We had this version, and this was another way of doing it. That's in our previous video. Now we need to find out what these 10 questions are going to be. So before we start filling out the 10 questions, let's just talk about what those questions are and how we're going to find the information for them. The key thing here is to remember your focus question. So looking at your focus question, you now need to find additional quality questions that are going to help you find information that you need for this topic. When we are going to write these questions down, they must be related to what you are trying to find out for your focus question. So in our phase 2, we're going to do a survey and interview people to find out their views and opinions on things. But we also need to find some researchable data from other sources, which is what we're going to do here for these 10 questions. So finding out what else we need to find out in order to do this project. So I'm going to discuss quickly what those 10 questions must look like, and I'm going to give you some tips on how to create them. So the first thing to take note of is the questions must have a variety of levels. So you're going to have 10 questions, but they must have at least 3 or 4 different levels. Now, a level 1 question is a question that just provides facts, definitions. What is this? Who is this? When was this happened? Very straightforward facts. That would be considered level 1. Those are easy to find, but you can't just have level 1 questions. You're going to need to have some level 2, 3s, and 4s. Level 2s are ones that give direction to your investigation about how and why certain things are happening. So why are people using AI unethically? Things like that, asking the hows and the whys. And then 3s and 4s are almost like they are very similar category. Level 3 is about supporting predictions, alternatives, or variations. What if this happens? So in the future, we may see this happen with regard to unethical use of AI. Anything to do with predictive or alternatives to what could happen. And then level 4 is reviewing or critiquing or supporting your judgments. Would it be better if we did this? What would you recommend to do this? So it's not necessarily factual based, but it's recommendations about what things can be done. So those are your 4 levels. With your 10 questions, you need to have a variety of levels. Now don't go and give 8 level 1s and then 1, 2, and 1, 3. Because remember, this information you're going to be talking about in your phase 3 when you write up your report. So this needs to be meaningful. So there's going to be some factual information that you do need to know. So there's going to be a couple of level 1s, but you need to also look for some stuff for level 2s and 3s and 4s. A nice breakup would be like 3 there, 3 there, 3 there, 1 there. That's the nice distribution of numbers. It doesn't have to be exactly that. You could have 3 level 1s, you could have 5 level 2s, and then 2s of these. That would also work, but make sure you've got a variety of those questions. The other thing to take note of the questions is they must be able to be grouped into categories. Now they give you some examples of categories of background, problem, consequences, solutions. You don't have to use them. You can make your own categories. So they give you actual information, like what is meant by the ethical use of AI tools. That's the background of it. The problem, what are the issues, or how's it impacting us? Consequences, what's because of this problem, what is happening? And potential solutions. Make sure you don't forget about solutions, because you're going to need to talk about solutions, not only from your survey that you're going to do in phase 2, but from the research we do here. Now you need at least 3 categories. So you don't need to do all 4, but pick 3 that you like. Definitely include solution as one of them. So basically the category is a way of grouping the questions. Like question 1, 7, 8 have to do with the background. Questions 2, 4, and 9 are the solutions. So it's a way of providing categories for those questions. So when we get to our report in phase 3, we can actually use that category as a heading and then use those sources that are under that category as part of the discussion. So as I said, it's very difficult to understand this now because you don't know what to expect in phase 3 and that, but that's why I'm trying to give you the tips now. You want at least 3 to 4 different levels of questions amongst your 10, and amongst your 10 you need to have at least 3 different categories. Don't have a category for each question. Try get a grouping of them so that you can group question 1, 2, and 7 together in your discussion, but make sure that you have at least 3 categories. At least 10 questions, at least 3 levels of question types, at least 3 categories. So when we get to the sources of the information, these sources, we need to find at least 2 websites and 1 other, and these sources are going to give us the answers to those 10 questions. So that's what they mean by the sources. So they said at least 2 websites and 1 other source. That could be a newspaper article, it could be your textbook if you can find information there. But there's a way to find internet sources for this other. For example, you could find a newspaper article online that could be considered for the one other. Maybe there's a video on YouTube or on another site that discusses a particular issue. That can also be the other type of media, not just the internet-based one. So you need 2 websites and 1 other to get the answers for all your 10 questions. You can have more, but I wouldn't go more than maybe 4, maybe 5 sources, because for each of these, you're going to do the bibliography of that particular website or article, and you're going to have to evaluate that source, which we'll discuss in another video. So the more sources you have, the more work you're going to have to do. You need at least 3, 2 internet, 1 other. I would try to stick to that. If you find that you're struggling to find the information that you need for your 10 questions, then having a 4th one isn't a bad idea, but try not to go more than 4, 5 at a push. So we want 10 questions at 3 different levels with 3 categories that are going to be answered by 2 websites and 1 other source. Now this is the tricky part. If I go and start thinking about 10 questions, I could come up with a great set of 10 questions, but then to find the answers to those questions is going to be very time consuming and complicated. And the chance of me finding 3 sources, 2 websites and 1 other that answers all 10 questions is going to be highly unlikely. If I do it that way, if I first determine what my 10 questions are, I'm probably going to have to find 10 different sources, which is going to create a lot of work. So my tip to you is this. First, find your 3 sources, your 2 websites and your 1 other. Find these first. Once you've found them, you can use that then to determine what your 10 questions are going to be and the levels and the categories. Remember, we must also refer to your focus question because that's guiding you. You can do the research first, and then once you've done the research, you're going to reverse engineer your questions. I know it's not the way that they want you to do it, but trust me, it's going to make your life a lot easier. Otherwise, you're going to have to find a source for each of those 10 questions. So just remember, we're going to have to keep track of where we find that information, which I'm going to refer to later, of something that can help you with that. Because we're going to have to do a bibliography and fill this in our table at a later stage. So let's just go back to the topic quickly. In your PAT document, there was a talk of the topic, and then you picked a particular sector, and then they gave you a whole bunch of resources here that you can use for your research. So here is where I would start looking. So if you picked education, I would look over here and go through those particular sources. You can also use these. These are the general ones. So these ones apply to all of them, and then these ones apply to your sector if you're doing education. If you're doing medicine, you do just those ones and the general ones. But looking at these sources, you might find the information that you need. Now, just take note. They do mention you can use these, but you must also include resources that you found on your own. So don't use these for all 2 websites and 1 other. Maybe use 1, 2 max, and then try to find another source for your information. So here's one of the articles. So you will go through it and read about it. It's going to require you to do a lot of reading and checking out this information. You might find information here that goes, hey, this relates to my focus question. Remember, always refer back to your focus question. What are you trying to find out? From this information, you could maybe go, hey, I could ask a question like this, and this paragraph answers it. So you're looking at the answers here, and you're trying to create the question that this particular paragraph answers, for example. So you go through it, reading all these articles. You might find a couple of articles where there's nothing, then just move on to the next. But I just used the first one over there for education training. Try a couple of them, and then don't forget to also search on Google for your sources. Remember, we said news articles could also be useful, so don't be afraid to go to Google News. I just searched for unethical use of AI in education, and there you can already see that there's a bunch of articles here at the New York Times. That's a news article that we can go through and read about and see how this relates. So this is a news article, so we could maybe consider this as one of our others. Remember, we also said you could use a video. So while searching for it, you might want to look under videos and go check out some videos about that particular topic. Now, here are 2 things that you need to be aware of when you find a source that you like. Let's say we really like this website and I really like that video. We need to keep track of the details of those sources. So what I've done is I've created a document which you can download. You can just go to tinyurl.com/mrlongcatpatsources, and you'll see this document. You can't edit it, but you can go here to File and download it as an Excel file. And then once you've got it, you can put it into your PAT folder. I've put it into my sources folder and then just rename it to PAT sources. And if you open it, you can enable editing, and now you can fill in the details as you find those sources. You can put them directly into your table, but maybe you are just trying to do some research and find out what you like. So use this to make sure that you keep track of the website. So if you come over here, we really like this one. We're going to get about 2 or 3 questions from here. So this is the future benefits of artificial intelligence for students. That's the name of the web page. The organization or author is URBE University. Maybe even mention the person that wrote it. So we just added the author as well. And then there's the date that it was uploaded, 2023. July is the 7th month and it's the 6th day. And then we're going to use the date that we accessed. Now, this is why it's important to do this as you find the source, because now we can keep track of the date that we use this. So this is the 2025, 3rd month, the 1st day. And then we're going to put the URL there. So we're going to copy that URL and paste it. So now I've got that information when I want to do my bibliography at a later stage. You can do that for your other sources as well. Just mention what type it is. Is it an article? Is it a video? I've given you space for extra in case you need. Maybe you're not going to use all of them. So fill out what you can for the other sources. Fill out for your websites. And just a reminder, you're probably going to need images as well. So if you find a really nice image, then make sure that you save that image and keep track of where you got it, because you must reference where you got those images. Once you've saved it, say what the file name is of the image, who the photographer or creator is if you can find it, the title of the image, and the publication date of that picture. If you can't find it, at least you can have the date that you accessed it. Maybe mention the license. Is it public domain? Is it Creative Commons? Is it copyright? And then the URL to that image. Just having this information recorded as you find your images, when you get later to your website, it'll be really useful to reference them. If your teacher allows you to use AI images, then you can use the AI tool that you created the image with and what was the prompt that created that AI image. But first, check if your teacher will allow you to use AI generated images. Keeping track of our sources is the one thing that we need to do. Remembering you can get that document from Mr. Long CatPat sources to keep track of it. But the other thing you need to do is you need to save that website. So the best way to do that, if you are in a website and you want to save a copy of it, is to come here to print. And you pick the selection to save as PDF. So I'm going to save this document as a PDF, and you want to save it in your sources folder. So when I come here and select save as PDF, I can click save. And then in my sources folder, I can save this article over there as a PDF. So now I've got a copy of it, which is also useful in case I need to work offline. I can still access that article. And when I open it now from the PDF, you can go through it and you can actually highlight the parts that are important. So I'm going to say highlight, and we want to say highlight all this information over here so that we know where to get our information later. So you can use this to particularly highlight what part of the website you are getting your information from. And then you can just save it and it'll keep it there. So that's what you need to do for your websites. Now for videos, so let's say you really like that video, then you can go and get the link for it. We're going to copy it and come to a website like YouTube to transcribe. You just type in the URL and get free transcript. And so here you've got the transcribe. You can even get it to summarize it for you, but here you've got it. So you can copy the transcript, paste it in a document, then at least you've got the text from that particular website. You might still want to get a copy of this as a PDF. So if you come here to File, Print, and Save as PDF, then at least you'll get the details of the website as evidence of where you got that information. But I would include the transcript as well. So to recap this very important step, you need to find 10 questions at least 3 to 4 different levels from 3 different categories. But in order to do that first, you need to do some research. And the answers for those 10 questions must come from at least 2 internet articles and 1 other source. So I would suggest finding the sources first, and then from there, in our next video, we'll show you how to get questions from those sources and fill out the questions, the levels, and the categories. But let's first find the information that we want, and then we'll reverse engineer our questions. Remember to always refer to your focus question to guide you in what information you're looking for. Use the links in the topic discussion to find some information. Don't use all of them. Just use this as a guide. Maybe there's 1 or 2 here that you can use, but you need to find your own sources as well. Download my CatPat sources list, and every time you find a great website, fill out the details of that website or of that source. Or if you find a great image that you're going to use in your website, make sure you keep the details of that. Make sure that you save the website by going to print it and then saving it as a PDF into your sources folder. If you're finding videos, go find the transcript. That can also be useful. So at the end of your research, you should have at least 3 PDFs here with information that you can use to develop your 10 questions. So I can't tell you what research to do. That is very dependent on your focus question. You now need to go do the work, go find those websites and those web articles and videos that are going to help you with information that relates to your focus question. Remember, it all comes down to your focus question. Let that guide you on whether this is a good resource for what you are trying to find out. It is the most difficult part of the phase. Once you've got your sources, once you've got good websites and good resources, it'll make your life a lot easier going forward with the rest of the PAT. Go and do your research. Make sure you download the PAT sources document. Go find that research. And then our next video, we'll look at how we can generate those 10 questions for you. Good luck, CAT students. Everything for the CAT PAT can be found in our PAT guide, which you can download at tinyurl.com/MrLongPatGuideCat, or be a subscriber to our YouTube channel, find videos when we post them there. And remember, don't do it the long way, do it the Mr. Long way.